we check, of course, is SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. If they start passing and everything else about the message, there's no malicious links or malicious attachments, we'll just let the email go through. If everything else starts to fail, though, those SPF, DKIM, and DMARC checks, we can also do reputational level checks on the sending server. How long ago was it registered? Where was the domain created? Is it being sent from some third-party platform like a SendGrid of MailChimp or ServiceNow or anything of those natures where people send on behalf of yourself? We can see and say, hey, this may be not coming from something they say in their DNS records is true, but is definitely okay to be able to be coming through. If all those start to fail, though, we can definitely commit it as a brand-based impersonation and put a nice red danger banner inside of the message itself. And so getting into the banners a little bit, we do add 3 different levels of banners to all emails. And so this one, of course, got a danger banner because we thought, of course, it was a phish. But with those 3 different levels, we have a danger one that we see here. We have yellow caution ones for things that maybe we don't think are inherently phishing, but it's something that we could easily say that is something to take a second look at. For example, these COVID-19 related phishing scams that are pretty prevalent these days. If anything inside the message is discussing COVID or coronavirus or the pandemic, we're going to put in a sensitive content banner just to make your users aware of the fact that they are talking about that. With that being said, there is a lot of different phishing attempts using this COVID-19 phishing scams. Dave Baggett, our CEO, has a great talk up about it on Bright Talk as well, so take a look at that and see a little bit more about how we are detecting these. But getting back to the impersonation side of the house, what we actually are looking to do is make sure that the email itself looks like something that is malicious and then committed as such using our advanced detection. And part of that is understanding what the links inside the message looks like as well. And so if we click on the review document here, what INKY will do at the time of click and every subsequent click after that is rescan it to see if it is malicious. If we caught it for being malicious up front, it always take you to this page as well. But if it was one of those links that maybe wasn't live at the time of delivery and then became live after delivery, we can see that because, again, at the time of click is when we're going to rescan that link. And so we're going to take you to this link protection page if we think something is wrong about it. This email was delivered to me, I think, on Tuesday or so of this week. And now that the screenshot down below isn't showing up, we know that the link is most likely taken down. So this is a common theme for email phishers these days. They'll use some sort of blob service on Azure where they'll just spin up a random website for every single email they send. Once they get their action and someone's visited that site, it most likely will be turned down and then spun back up onto a different host name just to make sure that they're one step ahead of Azure taking down their services. But we can see that instead of actually sending the user to the malicious site, we send them to this link protection page, gives those users who do click on malicious links or links that they think are fine, a second opportunity to take a look at it to see if it is bad or if it's good. And so they have an option here to either proceed to site or not proceed. But at an admin level, you as the administrator can take this button away completely. At that point, you would just say something along the lines of an admin has to approve your use through and contact them. But getting back into our different detection platforms. So one of the main core things to really take away from our whole brand detection is that it doesn't need to be inherently malicious, or the email itself doesn't need to be bad for us to be able to catch it. So here's just an example of an American Express forgery. We have it saying it's coming from something that looks like American Express membership support. The email address, of course, isn't them. They have a grave above an A. So everything about the mail also just to us as a person stands out immediately as something that, okay, this isn't something American Express would do. But inside the message, there's no bad links, there's no attachments. I can't click on anything inside of here to take me to something malicious. It really is just the impersonator or the phisher trying to look like American Express just enough for someone to trust it and hopefully reply to it. So most likely this email itself is part of some phisher's playbook where they send out a whole bunch of them at once, and whoever replies to this email will eventually get the follow-up email and so on and so forth, following a normal playbook of phishing attempts. And for our brand detection platform to detect this first email up front, it cuts that playbook and off at the source for all of the users protected by INKY. So really, all we're doing is looking at the email itself, identifying these things inside of the email, such as logos, disclaimer statements, copyright symbols, and saying this looks like it's a brand indicative enough that it should 100% be coming from one of their servers. And if it's not, we'll call it out as such. Something else with the links or the banners themselves are the links inside of them and the ability to view them and see additional details about each and every message that is received. And so if we click on the details link here, your users will be taken to a details page showing you exactly what we thought was wrong with it. Of course, you'll get those high-level threat types that we showed inside of the banner themselves, but also a little bit more about those high-level threat types with some information from the email itself. So if we're saying the sender may be trying to trick you, thinking this message is from the major brand or known contact, American Express, as well as this message appears to be impersonating American Express, but not being sent from one of its domains. And something to note about these pages as well is that you can actually brand these out to your organization so that it just looks a little bit more clean to your users when they click on it, so they'll trust it more with your own internal logo and appearance. Likewise, what you can do inside the banner, you can also change the FAQ and protection by INKY to link to and say whatever you want. Again, just to make your users trust it more and say, hey, protection by your organization, and link to maybe an internal security page or wherever else you want it to link to. But finally, what else you can do with the banner is the ability to report this email. So this report this email button, again, is just a link. And since it's embedded inside the body of the message inside of your emails, you can click on it and your users can click on it from anywhere. They could be on the Apple Mail app, they can be on the Gmail app, they can be on the Outlook app, they can be on whatever app that they want. As long as they're rendering HTML within their client, they'll be able to see that link and click on it and report on it. And this is all done without any sort of third-party plugins or anything that the end user themselves needs to install. One day it just isn't there for them, and once you do the INKY install at the server level, then the next day it will be. And so having the ability to report something as safe spam or phishing gives INKY a nice little feedback loop. So if a user was to report something, say, that INKY reported as phishing, we automatically take those emails back and put them back into our model to say, yeah, this email definitely looks like phishing in the future because both INKY caught it and so did the person. If they are to contradict or say something different than INKY thought, one of our engineers will take a look at it to make sure that maybe if we got something wrong, we'll fix it. Or if the user got something wrong and they're reporting something as safe when it really isn't, we won't make any option or make any changes to that. Something else that can happen here is we can send you all these reports in the form of an email. Attached to those reports will be the raw message so that you can do your own content analysis if you like. And again, brandable to your organization. And then, yeah, so one other thing we can do, it's kind of related to the COVID-19 banner we saw earlier. And I'm not sure if I have this one up. We'll just go use the COVID-19 one. So something we can do inside the body of the message itself is understand what semantically is being discussed. And that's kind of how, and that is how we're figuring out what this email is talking about. So of course, it's talking about the coronavirus or COVID-19. And so using a little bit of natural language processing, we can detect things such as financial transactions or financial statements, as well as password-related statements. So we have 3 separate policies that you can put in your own custom alert. So here's just one of the, this is a canned alert we have in for everyone right now to beware of COVID-19 phishing scams. But for this policy, you can put in whatever type of alert that you want, or you could completely remove it if you wanted to. Something else that you can add is for, say, financial transactions, you can put in the alert saying, hey, never send money without verbal confirmation, or something related to that. Likewise, for policies for passwords, you could say our IT department will never ask for your password, or just never give your password out in general. Things of that nature are super easy for us to be able to alert on, and so your users just have that extra information in front of them in the form of this sensitive content yellow banner that you see here. So yeah, going right through, something else we do is more of a lockdown approach to your individual VIPs. So inside of every email that is sent to you, there is a from field that someone most likely is impersonating or has impersonated one of your individual end users at your organization. We see it happen all the time with VIPs within your organization or within our organization. So we have an example here coming from someone portraying to be Dave Baggett, our CEO here at INKY. We get these daily. Someone inside of our organization definitely always gets one of these emails, just someone forging him from, wherever they want to forge it from, because the from field is very fallible. Anyone can change that to say whatever they want and look like whoever they want. So at INKY, what we do is whenever an email comes in looking like one of the VIPs that you can set within our dashboard, we will call it out and say, yeah, this is a spoofed VIP attempt because he's not coming from one of the email addresses that we have said those VIPs are allowed to come from. And we detect it not just based off exact display name matching, but we do a little bit of fuzzy matching. That fuzzy matching can include a little bit of character spoofing using different Unicode tricks as well as different character sets. So if Dave was spelled with an A in a different letter or a different character set, like a Greek alphabet A, we can still catch that because it looks close enough to David and Dave Baggett. Like I said, the fuzzy matching, we have David Baggett here, we have Dave Baggett down below. And so all that together, it can be done automatically through our fuzzy matching. One of the cooler ones, I think, too, is we have a feature where if it sounds close enough to Dave Baggett, it can also be caught. So it's just phonetically wise, it is close enough to Dave Baggett, it's also caught. And these are those ones where you can definitely see a use case where your users are probably just getting pretty benign messages from people impersonating your VIPs where it's just text, there's nothing inherently bad with it. But the phish itself is in the from field. And if you can catch that, then you can stop that at the source. Yeah, so something else we do inside every single message from outbound emails to your internal, or from external sources to inbound emails, so external to inbound, we are going to do a little bit of social graphing. These social graphing techniques ensure that if someone external to your organization is compromised, we can pick up on subtle variations inside of those headers to see if it looks different than they usually do. So for every email, we're profiling how their sending is happening. So what that comes from is basically from the bottom up. So from where they're sending their emails. So if there is a client IP associated with the header, we profile that. If there's device level information, things around like the Apple Mail app, Outlook app, we're going to profile that. The different servers they're coming from. So if they're using like Office 365 versus the Outlook.com versus MSN versus Gmail versus Yahoo, all those have different signatures. And so if someone is sending from that same place all the time, their profile is pretty strong to always look like that. And so what we do with that information, if someone was then to be compromised or their account was taken over by someone else, and they're, say, logging in from somewhere across the world using a different level client information, we can see that subtle variation and call it out as specifically a potential sender forgery and saying, hey, this doesn't look like it should be coming from that person I know who sends that mail. And that's what we're calling out here with this potential sender forgery alert. It says that this mail looks different than the usual sender, Dave Baggett, and it may be a sign of email forgery or spear phishing. Because Dave knows that he sent, or we know, or INKY knows that Dave sends from a usual place, and it's definitely not here. So that subtle variation allows us to call that out. And then just so we have a complete look on how the neutral banners look, we do have a neutral banner here, just a quick example. We have an external source. It's going to be coming from the email address that it says in the from field, but still give your users the ability to report this email directly from the message itself. So if I click on report this email, I can say, oh yeah, you missed that. That was definitely a phishing attempt. And now that I committed that as a phish, someone would take a look at it and say, yeah, definitely not a phish because it's just an alert from Microsoft's 365 message center. So that just shows you how the neutral banners look. And so for the majority of emails you get, you would just have this gray neutral banner. That's the real beauty of it, is that you can say, the banner fatigue that some people may have with people using banners these days, we kind of think it doesn't apply as much with us, because if you're seeing this one about 80% of the time, and then the yellow banner is about 10% of the time or 15% of the time, and then a danger banner 5%, or maybe never because you don't want to deliver it to your end users, that little bit of subtle variation makes your users think, okay, this is a yellow banner. I might need to take a little bit more look into this because I never seen this before. I don't usually see these. I always see gray banners. And so we kind of hope that, or we use the banners to make sure that variation is different so people don't get that banner fatigue. So great. I'm going to go into our dashboard now to show you what you can do from there. So for many of these report this email links, if you are an admin, it can take you directly to them. But also, of course, if you purchase INKY and you want to trial INKY out, you'll get access to our INKY dashboard, where it'll look something like this, where at the very beginning, you get a nice overview page, just what's going on in the tenant. I have my test tenant up, just having some some information that I have put out. I put out my email address on the web to see what I could scoop up in the form of phishing attempts. And so I've been getting some stuff over time. But if we scroll down a bit, we can see the different threat types we have, the different things that we've caught on, or INKY has caught on this tenant. And it's not essentially an exhaustive list of everything we catch. It's just more so of what was caught on this tenant. We do link over some third-party threat feeds, as you can see here. We have Google Safe Browsing, Netcraft Fish Feed. We do fish tank URLs as well. In a case, we want to ensure that if they catch something, we are also catching it as well, because they have a long list of phishing domains that they see at a more exponential level that we can definitely key off of as well. We, of course, also find our own zero-day threats using our brand-based detection system on phishing links, but it definitely helps to have a broader set of phishing links as well. We have our threat details pages where you get the most information out of this dashboard, and you can filter out different things. If you want to show, hey, let's show all the emails, neutral, cautions, and dangers, you can do that. But if you'd only want to see the cautions and above, you can just click caution. As well as if you wanted to filter out for a specific reason code and just search on those emails, you can do that. You have the option to include only messages with user reports. So if I only want to search on the messages that have user reports, I can see that. If I want to go back, I can just refresh that list. And let's go back to just the cautions. You can also do the message ID or recipient email address as well. But clicking into any one of these emails, you can see how we are essentially indexing the results, and it is using a little bit of the clear text headers inside of the emails themselves. So everything you come to expect from the to, BCC, CC if there was one, subject, reply to if there was one, our message ID, our date, any attachments. We're not storing any of the attachments. We're just indexing the actual names of them. We have our mail from, our authentication results if DKIM and DMARC are passing, and then of course our authenticated sources. And this is that example I showed earlier. It's the one of let's go back to it, of the DocuSign. And so this was a legitimate phishing email that I got, and it's coming from, if we go back to our INKY dashboard, we can see that it's actually coming from an on Microsoft or an Office 365 address. So of course it's using Office 365 infrastructure, which is very, very common. You can set these up for free. You can buy a domain for $10 and send out all the phishing emails you want until they shut you down, which, of course, is going to be a delay between those two times. And so it looks legitimate when it's coming through on this domain because, you're passing DKIM, it's within Office 365, it looks good to go. But of course, we caught it as a brand-based impersonation because it wasn't DocuSign. It was linking to an Azure blob service that is definitely not DocuSign. And we committed it as danger or phish. We have our analysis that was produced. So of course, it's just the verbose banner that you saw in the email, just at a more, everything else you can see. And then we have our different actions you can take on it. So of course, we have our whitelisting and blacklisting actions. If we click into our whitelist page, you can see the different types of whitelist that you get that you can do. For this one, it's not really a good example for whitelisting. I'll get to that in the next example. But here is actually a good example of blacklisting. So I can make sure that I blacklist this always as phishing content. So anything coming from this email address in the future is always going to be tracked for phishing. And that just makes sure and ensures that this email is always a red danger banner in the future. Something else that's nice is I can delete messages directly from INKY protected mailboxes. That means we are essentially going out to the Office 365 with the Graph API. We're going to search for the message inside of the user's inbox, as well as all their folders to see if we can pull it out. And if we want to delete it, we can. If we run a dry run, we can see if we can find any. And it looks like, yeah, it found 2 messages. That's because I made a copy of it. And if I wanted to delete those, I could now. It's my example box. I won't delete those for yet. We have our user reports that would be filtered into here as well. And let's just go show what they look like real quick. So we have like a spam content one here. We have the report date, where it was reported, who it was reported by, the label that the user reported as. So on the report page, you have those 3 options, safe, spam, or phishing. I reported this one as spam. I added some comments in there just to show the comment. And then you also have a status of confirmed or rejected, so or unconfirmed at this point. So essentially what an admin has the ability to do is confirm or reject reports. Confirming a report makes sure that whatever the person or whatever it was labeled as just gets committed a little bit further in our scoring of the actual email itself. as well as if you reject it out, it clears out any back-end counters we may have related to user feedback. What this status also does is allows you to confirm safe reports for links that maybe we have made not available to end users. So if a user clicks on a link that we say is phishing, and they say, no, that's definitely safe, your admin can go in and confirm it or reject it. If you confirm it, it opens up the link so users could then click on it. If you reject it, of course, they wouldn't be able to click on it again. But yeah, as an admin, you do have the ability to report this email as well. Same idea, safe spam or phishing. And then link clicks. So if your users are utilizing our link rewriting feature, it of course comes with the product, but it's optional. You can turn it on and off. It gets tracked down below. And I think I had an example with that phishing one, just so we can go back to it. We click on phishing down below, and yeah, here we go. So this is tracking all the link clicks inside of the email itself. So it shows the original INKY URL, the one that was displayed to the end user, as well as it gives you, the admin, the original URL so that you can copy and paste it out and give it to your end user if you need to. As well as it's just showing that, hey, the INKY display confirmation screen, but the user did not continue. If they did continue, of course, you would see it did continue. So a better example for our whitelisting actions, getting back to that, is something like a spam content email. So here we have an example of an email coming from HughesNet. It's not inherently malicious. It's just spammy. Maybe the template they use to make these emails just has an overly used amount of images to text, or any sort of reason that our spam detection platform would commit as spam. But say your users are reporting it as safe and you don't need to show spam content anymore, you can come in here and whitelist it specifically for spam content for the email address or the domain. This ensures and allows you to do that whitelist without being too aggressive. So any one of our other checks could still be flagged from this email address or domain, maybe because they were compromised in the future and started sending in phishing links or malicious attachments, or anything like that could still commit this email or domain as phishing or another caution in the future. It just won't show the spam content banner. You do also have the option to warn about any threats, a blanket whitelist. We definitely wouldn't recommend it. It is very powerful, but you can do it if you need to. Our customizations can be done. The ones I was talking about for branding can be done directly from our dashboard. It's not hidden behind anything, or you don't need to come to us for it. You can come in here and change the protection by INKY on the banner themselves, the branding URLs, the FAQ URLs, as well as all those different content policies directly from here. So if you have an email coming in that we think is related to passwords, that's the policy that would show up here. Likewise with financial policies. And then finally, you can see the COVID-19 coronavirus policy that we saw earlier. It's just in here where you can easily filter or remove that out and change it to something else, or just keep it like this as the default. Again, you can come down to the custom logos and choose a file from your local system and add up an image, as well as change the header text inside of the URLs. You can also come down to the very bottom and see how it looks when you make those changes. So a nice little preview that gives you just a look of what everything looks like when you make those changes, as well as all the different customizations. So yeah, our VIP list. Our VIP list is super easy. Just last name, first name, email address, and then all the email addresses they're allowed to come from. These, of course, are my email address. And so anyone else that sends an email impersonating me, not coming from one of these addresses, are going to be caught for phishing. And like I said, super easy. You can just add a person, first name, last name, email address. And then, of course, over here, you can copy and paste the same one and just add in a new one, say matt@gmail.com, whatever it is. You can add in as many as you want over there. Our whitelisting page and our blacklisting page come from the threat details, but you can do any sort of whitelisting and blacklisting up front. This will actually just give you the ability to hover over to see who added it, what time the last was modified. You can click into it to disable it, as well as if you see this little envelope over here, if you click on the view related message details, you can see the original message that caused you to do that whitelisting to begin with. So it just gives you some options around that. Like I said, same idea with the blacklisting. It gets filtered over from the threat details page, but you can do it up front if needed, as well as disable or view the original message that caused you to do that blacklisting in the past. Our advanced config page, you have the option to do learning mode. Learning mode gives you some special considerations, given the fact that INKY was just enabled on a customer tenant. This allows you to put in some custom statements saying that INKY is learning, or you can say whatever you want here, that we're learning, please report the emails so that we can learn more about our environment. It's not going to suppress any sort of results or anything like that. It's purely going to say what it says, the learning mode text, and to ensure that your users know that this was brand new and something that we need to take into consideration. Just revert that. We have upstream provider settings. So many of our customers have upstream providers, and upstream providers being any sort of third-party platform that may be your MX record, most likely your MX record. So of course, the ones you come to expect, Barracuda, FireEye, Mimecast, Proofpoint, any one of those that you may use, we have an input here. And if you don't see one that you use on this list, we can easily put it in once we start seeing mail from you. But essentially what this means is that once we set an upstream provider, that allows us to look past the results for what that person originally emailed from. So if Proofpoint saw it, we want to look past their original results so that we can have the proper information to do our own analysis. So yeah. Something else we also offer is our phishing awareness training platforms suppression. So if you are using one of those phishing training awareness platforms that you see down below, you can select on it. Like I have selected know before here. So any email coming in from a know before phishing simulation campaign will be automatically whitelisted, and it'll only show a gray banner to your users. We won't click on any links or any sort of text, so there's nothing in the back end that you could see like one of our servers checking first, so you'll have good user information for people doing those clicks. And then finally, a little preview of our visualization dashboard. This is going to be our dashboard to show you big data analytics around every single email that is coming through. This entire dashboard is built around you having control of what you want to see, building out as many dashboards as you want. So as you can see, I have 6 of them built right now for my test tenant. But if I wanted to make a new test dashboard, I can make a new one and just start from a brand new message set. I can come in and filter on things that I want to see based around the headers again. But over here, you have a lot more granular filtering, being able to do from whatever header we've indexed before. It really gives you a lot cleaner information to be able to search on. Let's look at all the attachments that were zip files, and let's go find those. You could do that, as well as just different analysis based on the threat category. So neutral, caution, dangers. You can see the difference in the sensitive content policy. So I want to see all the emails that were related to COVID-19. Quick and easy done from here, as well as the different categories, of course. You also have metadata in here, so you can see, okay, let's go look at all the reports. Let's go look at the Microsoft SCL values. So let's see what Microsoft said was an SCL value of 1, and INKY now says is phishing. So it really helps us show that there are emails still getting by Microsoft. So yeah, but this is a very powerful tool that we're building on to be able to ensure that you can build out any sort of report you want, and clicking into it, of course, will get you the same information that we showed earlier in the other dashboard, you know, all the different sender information, the different index results we have. But it also gives you more information about the different images that are seen, the different links that are seen before they're rewritten, as well as if there are any link clicks or reports that also gets built into that. And so yeah, I think that's a pretty good high-level overview of everything we're doing here at INKY. If you have any further questions about all this or anything related to do with INKY at all, please let me know. And I got my email down here to show you what it looks like. And yeah, so hope this helped. And if you have any questions, please contact me. Thanks.